Imagine standing at the bottom of a tall ladder, looking up at the people above you. Some are just a few rungs higher, while others seem impossibly far away at the top. This is not just any ladder. This is the income ladder, and where you stand on it determines much more than just how much money you earn. The income ladder is one of the most powerful ways to understand how wealth and opportunity are distributed in society. Every person in the country occupies a specific rung on this ladder, and the distance between these rungs tells a story about inequality, opportunity, and the possibility of climbing higher. For some, moving up feels natural and achievable. For others, it feels like climbing against gravity, where each step requires enormous effort, and even then, progress remains uncertain. Understanding this ladder is crucial because it reveals something fundamental about how our economic system works and who gets ahead in it. The structure of the ladder. The income ladder divides all households into 5 equal groups called quintiles, with each representing 20% of the population. Think of it as cutting society into 5 horizontal slices, from the poorest fifth at the bottom to the wealthiest fifth at the top. Those in the bottom quintile have average, after-tax incomes around $16,000, while middle quintile households earn approximately $67,000. At the very top, the highest quintile averages over $200,000. But within that top 20%, there exists even more dramatic inequality. The top 1% alone possesses wealth that dwarfs even their fellow top earners. The gap between rungs is not uniform. Moving from the bottom quintile to the second requires far less income growth than jumping from the fourth quintile to the top. The richest fifth captures more than half of all national income, while the poorest secures just over 3%. This concentration means that wealth and resources cluster heavily at the top, while those at the bottom share a much smaller piece of the economic pie. Households in the top quintile average 2 earners, while those in the bottom quintile average less than half an earner. This difference in earning power compounds over time. Married couple households represent over 77% of the top income group, but only 17% of the bottom group. Family structure matters enormously because 2 incomes provide not just more money, but greater financial stability and resilience against economic shocks. The ladder also reflects life stages. Nearly 70% of top quintile households include people in their prime earning years between 35 and 64, compared to just 41% in the bottom quintile. Young workers just starting out naturally earn less, while experienced professionals in mid-career command higher salaries. But this natural progression does not fully explain the gaps. Many people remain stuck at the bottom well past their prime earning years, unable to climb despite decades of work. The reality of climbing economic mobility is the ability to move up or down this ladder, either within your own lifetime or compared to your parents'. There are 2 ways to measure this movement. Absolute mobility asks whether you earn more money than your parents did at the same age. Relative mobility examines whether you have moved to a different rung compared to where your parents stood. For people born in 1940, 93% earn more than their parents by age 30. But for those born in 1980, that number dropped to just 45%. The American promise that each generation would do better than the last is fading. Rising living costs, stagnant wages, and increasing inequality mean that even when people earn more dollars than their parents, those dollars do not stretch as far or lift them as high. 40% of children born in the lowest quintile remain there as adults, and 70% never make it past the middle. This phenomenon is called stickiness. Half of those in the bottom wealth quintile in their early 30s are still there in their late 50s. At the top, half of those who start in the highest quintile stay there. The ladder is stickiest at the extremes. Those born into poverty struggle to escape it, while those born into wealth rarely fall far. About 61% of young adults in the bottom quintile in their late 20s climb to a higher quintile 10 years later. Early career years offer the best chance for movement. Young workers gain skills, switch jobs, pursue education, and build networks. But as people age, mobility opportunities shrink. The odds of moving out of the bottom decrease with age. By middle age, most people have settled into their economic position. Mobility varies dramatically by country. In Denmark, it takes only 2 generations for someone born into a low-income family to reach average income, while in Colombia it takes 11 generations. The average across developed countries is 4.5 generations. Countries with less inequality and stronger social safety nets show higher mobility. Where the rungs are closer together and support systems exist to help people climb, movement becomes more possible. The United States has lower mobility than most developed countries. A person's parents are far more predictive of their income in America than in Canada, Denmark, Finland, or Norway. Despite the cultural mythology of the self-made success story, American reality shows that where you start matters more than individual effort. What determines your rung? Education stands as the single most powerful factor in determining position on the income ladder. Nearly 20% of children born to families at the bottom are able to rise to the top with a college degree, and nearly 60% achieve middle income status. A bachelor's degree opens doors to higher-paying jobs, professional networks, and advancement opportunities that remain closed to those without credentials. But education itself reflects inequality. As income inequality has increased, wealthier parents invest more in their children's education and enrichment, widening the gap. Affluent families afford tutors, test preparation, enrichment activities, and private schools. They live in neighborhoods with better-funded public schools. Their children enter college better, prepared and more likely to complete degrees. Students from families in the top 1% are 34% more likely to attend elite colleges than other students. These elite institutions offer superior networks, internship opportunities, and prestige that translate directly into higher starting salaries and faster career advancement. Meanwhile, students from low-income families face barriers at every stage. Many never make it to college. Those who do often attend less selective institutions with fewer resources and lower graduation rates. Women experience weaker upward mobility than men, particularly in the bottom half of the distribution. People with college degrees move up the income ladder at the expense of those with lower education. Education creates a sorting mechanism where credentials increasingly determine who advances and who remains behind. Family structure profoundly shapes economic outcomes. Nearly 30% of children live with a single parent, and single-parent families are 3 times more likely to live in poverty than two-parent families. Single parents face impossible trade-offs between earning income and caring for children. They lack the financial cushion and flexibility that dual incomes provide. Health plays a critical but often overlooked role. Poor health can negatively impact long-term earnings and economic mobility, particularly if it causes interruptions during critical years of education and employment. Chronic illness drains financial resources, limits work capacity, and creates cycles of disadvantage that compound across generations. Geography matters too. Growing up in areas with better schools, lower crime rates, and stronger job markets increases mobility chances. Average income for white families increased from $50,000 to $60,000 between 1975 and 2005, while black families saw increases from $32,000 to only $35,000. Racial disparities in wealth, homeownership, and access to opportunity create mobility gaps that persist across generations. The income ladder is not simply a neutral measure of economic position. It reflects deep structural inequalities in how opportunity is distributed. Where you start on the ladder heavily influences where you end up. The rungs are not equally spaced, the ladder is stickiest at the extremes, and the factors that enable climbing, like education and family resources, are themselves unequally distributed. Understanding the income ladder reveals both the possibility and the difficulty of economic mobility in modern society.